Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today is a pretty interesting video. I'm going to be doing a sort of competitive analysis, or more of a comparative analysis of Brimstone and Omen. So you guys know, obviously, if you've been on this channel for a little while, that I was a Brimstone main, and a lot of my early videos are based around Brim, based around his smokes and his utility and things of that nature. However, I think that I have realized quite a few things about Brimstone, and I'm going to bring those to light in this video. I'm going to be explaining not just the differences between Brimstone and Omen, but also why the differences exist and who these characters really are meant to be played by and who they're for. Because I think that's the most important part here is fitting an agent to your playstyle. And if you don't know, well, now you know. I did personally make the switch to Omen, so a little bit of an Omen bias here, but hopefully you guys can see past that. With that being said, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you leave a like and of course subscribe for more. I would also highly recommend you to join the Discord. It is a growing community. We have a ton of good conversations in there, some great channels, some good old-fashioned fun, and obviously that's where you can submit your VODs for VOD review. And those go live, those VOD reviews go live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dragonmar. So every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Hope to see you guys there. Let's start. Now, first things first, I do want to go over why I like Brimstone so much in the beginning. The simple answer is that coming from games like Counter-Strike, I personally realized the value in smokes. Now, Brimstone is equipped with three sky smokes, right? And those smokes, to me, it just seems so easy, right? Oh, I can fully execute a site all on my own. I don't have to work on some crazy lineups. Remember, Brimstone smokes, very easy to use. I was like, this is perfect. And it was. And as you guys know, I had no problem hitting Immortal with Brim. However, I ran into a bit of a problem, right? And this is where the switch came in. I realized that with my playstyle, a big part of me likes to get aggressive on some rounds, right? I love getting aggressive here and there. Now, obviously not to the extent of a duelist, right? I don't play duelists. I'm not necessarily an entry fragger, but not having the abilities, you know, the literal abilities to have that sort of option to get aggressive with something like a flash or a movement ability really frustrated me with Brim. And that was kind of like my breaking point, where I realized, okay, Brimstone is very stationary. He's very slow paced. Who can I switch to that is similar, but will give me a little more variety, a little more options? And that's where Omen came in. And that, my friends, is why I switched. I essentially realized that my playstyle no longer meshed with what Brimstone had to offer. And instead, the addition of Paranoia, which is the flash for Omen, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. Now, let's get into the comparison. All right, so the first part of this comparison is going to be looking at their smokes. Now, Brimstone has three sky smokes, right? And remember, both of these agents get smokes passively. This is their signature ability, I think it's called. Let me actually check. All right, I was right. It is a signature ability. So Sky Smoke and Dark Cover. That means that they regenerate throughout the round. And in this case, Dark Cover for Omen gets two of these, and from here on forth, I'm just going to call them smokes. And Brimstone gets three. Now, Omens cost nothing, right? You can't buy an Omen smoke. However, with Brimstone, it does cost a little bit of money. I believe it's 100 credits right now, so nothing crazy, very affordable. But you do get a one that regenerates every round for Brim. Omen just gets both. Now, right off the bat, you're probably thinking, okay, 3 is bigger than 2, right? Well, yes, but it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And this is where the big difference comes in, and something that I really love about playing Omen is that I can now smoke across the map to help my team. This is something I ran into a lot, is that I was able to really lock down a site on defense with Brimstone, no problem. I would throw my smokes, I would space their timing perfectly. No one would want to run through those smokes and fight me, right? It's so dangerous unless you are going to fully commit with flashes. However, guess what they would do? They would attack the other bomb site. The other site where I was not, obviously. And normally, most team comps only have one agent with smokes. They have an Omen or a Brim. In that situation, there were no smokes to go, no smokes to help my team. And this frustrated me, because this meant I never got to use my smokes to help out my teammates if I wasn't close enough. And generally, you aren't. If you look at how far Brim can actually use his smokes from, it's not very far. But with Omen, it's a lot farther. And that is the biggest difference between these two agents, is that Omen, while having one less smoke, regenerates passively throughout the round, so you can potentially get 4 of your smokes off in a round, pretty consistently, I would say, as well. And on top of that, you can smoke for your team, which just does not happen with Brimstone. Whether they're in mid, maybe some maps you can hit mid with Brim, but for the most part, being able to smoke like from A on bind all the way over there to B to like teleporter, just to help your team out is so great. And that's the big difference between these two smokes. Now, obviously the other thing, right? Omen smokes are full. Brim smokes are completely full and fully covered. Meaning you cannot see through them. When you walk in them, your vision is super obscured. Omen, a little bit different, and it allows for players to make plays inside of these smokes. Now, I'm not going to call that a good or a bad thing. It's just a difference worth pointing out. It does, once again, though, lend itself for a more aggressive style of play, because this means you can play inside your smokes. You can link your smokes up together and sort of make a tunnel. This is much different with Brim, because there is no vision. It makes it much more dangerous. So, like I was saying, this really lends into the idea that Omen allows for more aggression. All right, so we've talked about their smokes. Now let's talk about the biggest difference between these two agents, and that is Paranoia versus Incendiary, or Brimstone's Molly. Now, what you have to remember is that both of these abilities cost money, right? So they're sort of equal in that sense, right? Which is different than the smokes. Remember, Brimstone smokes cost money if you're going to buy 3, unless you let them regenerate. Omen, completely free. Now, Incendiary, it's a molly, right? A lot of us are used to mollies from our other games. Maybe I was a little drawn towards that as well, thinking, oh, molly, just like CSGO, this is great. No, I got so little value out of using the molly. It is unbelievable. I realized that I was just not the right player for this ability. I was too aggressive. I always used it very proactively. And for me in particular, I use it to clear out angles a lot. And, while that is great, it just sort of felt to me like I never got the value I was hoping for, or at least I never really did damage with it. So if I never really did damage with my molly, why not opt for an ability that just doesn't do damage instead? And that's where Omen's Paranoia comes through. Now, Paranoia is sort of like an AoE blind, kind of. It's like his version of a flash. And, as we all know, right, if you are very close to them, the short-sighted effect, they can see you. However, don't be that close is obviously the first thing I would say to that. But the big difference here is that Paranoia has so many more uses than the molly, in my opinion. I was able to find so much more value. I find value in multiple rounds a game out of Paranoia. I am blinding so many people. When it comes to the molly, seriously, think about this, guys, for those of you who play Brim. How many kills do you get with your molly? How many people do you actually force out of a position instead of maybe you clear it, which is fine. Nobody's there. But do you ever actually kill people with it anymore? Not really. Only when people are very distracted. And that, to me, I was sort of like, oh, like this isn't really that useful in a game like Valorant with all these movement abilities. So why not use something like Paranoia, right? Which is going to be able to blind up to multiple people, could blind an entire team, gives me the ability then also to use Shrouded Step, which we'll get to in a second here, to silently sort of move as they can't hear you. I mean, the combinations are sort of endless. And once again, this ties into the idea that Omen just allows for a little bit more aggression, and his abilities seem to lend themselves better to sort of my playstyle, which is a supportive but also a bit of an aggressive playstyle, where having the option to get aggressive is exactly the type of thing that I want. All right, now the sort of forgotten stepchilds, if you will, of both of these agents, Shrouded Step and the Stim pack, I believe is the name of Brim's ability. Yeah, Stim Beacon, sorry. And so the Stim Beacon, it's like an AoE, like, I guess it's a combat Stim, right? It sort of enhances some of your abilities. I think it's your fire rate, and it helps with recoil a little bit. But at the same time, like, we all know that, and I hate to say this, but it's kind of a joke. It really doesn't feel like a very worthwhile ability in a game where one shot to the head kills. You're not really too worried Obviously, I know I'm just, at lower ranks, this does matter a lot more. But for me in particular, when I want my first shot to hit the head. And I don't really care at that point about the recoil. With the recoil, I'm always going for headshots anyways. I'm not firing into people's chests here. So the Stim beacon wasn't too useful to me. Now, of course, you can find value out of using it, if you're in a very defensive position, if your team is grouped up in a push. There obviously are value to be found in the Stim beacon. I hope they buff it, by the way. But then you look at Omen's Shrouded step, right? Which is, once again, these abilities are often, if you believe it or not, at least according to a lot of my VOD reviews and a lot of the games I've played, there are Omens and Brims that just don't use these abilities at all because they just are not the best. They're not the strongest. Now, Shrouded step for me is something that I found more value in recently. And once again, this sort of put Omen over the edge for me. The ability to reposition with Shrouded step was huge. I mean, absolutely huge. So picture yourself in a situation where you're stuck somewhere. Maybe you're in a corner, and you have to reposition, but to do so, you'll be sort of exposing yourself to the enemy. With Shrouded step, you can Shrouded step your way behind cover without ever being seen. Now, of course, they're going to hear you probably, but they won't see you. And this is huge for me because I find myself getting a little too aggressive sometimes. And in those situations, I have to reposition. Shrouded steps gives me that option. And this just isn't available with Brimstone. You guys have probably noticed nothing I've talked about with Brimstone so far has done anything to his movement, right? He has no dash. He has no jump. But Omen doesn't really have a dash or a jump either. Instead, he has a mini teleport, essentially. He has Shrouded step. Another great thing about Shrouded step, guys, allows you to reposition on top of stuff. Now, I made an entire video talking about some great spots to reposition with Omen, and I stand by that. It is so useful to be able to take fights from different ways, just different angles that people don't expect. And with Brimstone, you always know that Brim is going to be on the ground unless someone else is boosting them. And that is a huge downfall of Brimstone, is that his movement just is not up to par with what you see with Omen. Now, I want to talk about the final ability, and that's, of course, their ultimate abilities. In this situation, we have From the Shadows, which is Omen's, essentially cross-map teleport. And then we have Orbital Strike, which is Brimstone's ultimate, which, as you guys probably know, it's an area of effect, sort of big laser beam from the sky, deals a lot of damage. Now, just on paper, I will say I do think Orbital Strike is a better ultimate. There's a lot more value from it. You can get direct kills from it. However, a lot of what I've noticed is that as the game progresses, people are getting better and better at dodging orbital strikes. So because of that, it has lost a little bit of value. Now, Orbital Strike is great because you could use it just right off the start of rounds if you want. If players are playing annoying positions that are sometimes hard to clear out, maybe think like U-Haul on Bind is a great spot to ult right away. That's a good use of it, I think. However, From the Shadows allows a very interesting option for playstyle. If you are an aggressive player, you can potentially teleport behind the enemy team. And this does all kinds of mind games. Now, with Orbital Strike, there are no mind games, really. You can kind of use it as a smoke if you want and play around it. I've done that before myself. It is very fun. However, with From the Shadows, the whole mind games and the possibility of a flank, making people reposition and go find you is huge. And at a high level, this really has a lot of value. But I will say I do think that Brimstone kind of nudges Omen out here in terms of the better and more useful ultimate ability. But that's not to say that Omen's ability has no value. I definitely think it does. And guys, with these comparisons in mind, I just kind of want to say who I think these agents are for, right? Because, when I talk about Brim, I look fondly at him, right? I loved playing him in the beginning, but it quickly became apparent to me that Omen just suited me better. So, who is Brimstone for? Well, I think that Brimstone is definitely a good agent if you're new to Valorant or newer to a tactical FPS game. He's kind of like your entry agent. He's sort of like the perfect mix of a lot of very simple abilities that are very straightforward. Hey, you're going to smoke here, just click. Good. Hey, you want to use a molly? It does some damage. It'll bounce off a few things. Good. Click. You got it. Oh, your ultimate. It rains death from above. Just click again. You got it. Or hey, you want to give yourself a little boost in fire rate, go for it. Throw your stim down. They're very, very simple, but they leave a lot to be desired, which is why he's sort of that perfect entry agent for newer players and for players just looking to get a grasp on the game. This, of course, does not mean he will not be played in pro play. This does not mean you should not continue playing him. All I'm saying is that his abilities are a much more simple sort of play style and just don't allow for the creativity that someone like myself was looking for. Now, let's talk about who Omen is for. Omen, in my opinion, is better than Brimstone for someone like myself who likes to play a support role but also wants the option to get aggressive in rounds where I feel that's necessary. With Brimstone, there is no flash. There is no movement ability. If I want to get aggressive, I am running in just you know, in a blaze of glory because most likely I'm going down. But with Omen, I give myself a real shot. By using his flash, by using, Paranoia, I'm able to either Shrouded step or straight up run in if I want to. And this is something that I was looking for. And it took a long time to realize that this is really what I was missing with Brim, is that I just did not feel like I had the option to successfully get aggressive. And it really was holding back that creative side of me, you know, going for really cool plays or just trying new things. And I think that what makes Omen so fun is that you are not locked into the support role the entire game if you don't want to be. You can be the entry fragger. You can go for a crazy teleport. You know, there are big play opportunities, and unfortunately, just from the experience I've had so far, I do not see that same opportunity for Brimstone. Guys, that is going to conclude the video on the comparison between Brimstone and Omen. Hopefully, I was able to shed some light sort of on the difference between what are some very similar agents and perhaps also why I made the switch myself. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd love to see you by the stream, twitch.tv/Dragonmar. Hope to see you here. And if not, well, leave a like, subscribe for more content in the future, and hopefully we'll see you again. Take it easy, and peace.